I got totally suckered. Minty said, come along, have a nice chat with Tara and Nick and talk about government. And that was all fine. And then a week ago she said, yeah, we've changed our minds. We're doing what can public art do. I've been trying to sort of rescue the term public artist and public art for quite some time, sort of one-person quest against all the odds. So I've been doing it for a long time. I've got quite a lot to say about it, and I'm in a bit of a, following on from Dee, I'm in a bit of a can't see the woods for the trees kind of moment. I'm talking about what is going on right now for me, and that's always the hardest thing. I need academics to help with that sort of stuff. So, moving on. So, like many stories, this one has multiple timelines. So I'm going to read this because I actually thought I'd better write something because I needed to think about it. So one of them started somewhere around 2012-13, when, as sometimes happens with Creative Scotland, they say, could you come along to this thing? Without really knowing what the thing was going to be. And the thing turned out to be really quite a senior person from the Scottish Government who is connected to COSLA, which is the Organisation of Local Authorities. And this sort of High-Hegian guy presented this rather amazing graph to start with. He said, look, we're in a jam. We have got rising demand for services, healthcare, mental health, the whole lot, aging population. And we have the other side of the graph was going down the other way. This is the money that we've got. And the space in between those two curves is what he eloquently described as the oh fuck space. And unless you're one of the 1% of the population who has all the money, then you are in that oh fuck scenario. So what he did was he said, well, we've been doing some focus groups, and somebody's come up with the idea that actually creativity is the answer. So what I've done, I've been sent off to work all this out, and I've gathered together you as a group of creative people in a room. Okay. So we need an answer. And that's genuinely what he did. He then looked at the assembled people in the room and said, so, what are we going to do? You're creative people, give us an answer. And we shrugged and we hummed and hawed and kind of said, well, could you refine the brief a little bit, please? Kind of sort of, as you do when you're playing for time in those artistic situations when someone goes, what are you going to do? And yeah, but genuinely that's what the fellow had been told to bring home from the meeting was a one-word answer or a scenario. We didn't have an answer. There was only 2 of those meetings. He came back second time, realised that we were a waste of space and presumably moved on or wrote a report. I don't know what but his question did stick with me. And the first challenge I'd like to sort of lay down to you guys this afternoon is, for a moment, I'd like you to sort of turn the world around and see the land as the sea and the sea as the land. So most of my life as an artist, which began in the 1980s, I've experienced that the majority of interesting art process has been taking place here, in the centre of the ocean. So what I'm saying is that artists were feeling around for deep currents, for momentums, for the energy and what's happening in the world of ideas, and that basically things that were not an immediate reality to the rest of the people in society. And artists were trying to mix their work with those currents, and then that work would ultimately be made real at some point in the future in the form of waves. But where those waves ended up wasn't really so important. And that was, in the way I saw that was the vision of the artist as the outsider. A position that's been for a long time been seen as crucial to the way that artists relate to the world, I think, as a kind of other. So today, what I'm experiencing is a shift in that place of operation, and much of the interesting work from the deep currents has moved into a sort of place of physical contact with the rest of the world, the impact zone, where the waves are breaking. This is a place of impact, connection, shared life experience. When artists work here, the chaos of action makes it much harder to separate who's doing what. Authorship becomes blurred, and it becomes increasingly irrelevant to make distinctions between outsiders and insiders. For me, the desire to operate in this confusing and challenging space is a necessity that was kind of brought on by that oh fuck scenario. Something else that's definitely changed here is a renewed sense of possibility, I would say. A new belief in the idea that an action can have a direct effect. For all of my working life as an artist in public space in Scotland, until now I've been surrounded by a climate of impossibility rather than possibility. You were usually cried a lunatic or an artist, I guess, for trying to do anything at all, because any fool could see that there really was no point trying to change anything. However, for the last 4 years, one of the most extraordinary public art projects has been happening here, and that artwork has been the repeated and collective repetition of the word yes. This art project got thousands of people to re-engage with the future. It terrified the establishment who relied on fear of change to maintain the status quo, and in Scotland right now, there's a renewed sense that things are possible, and this is the new culture that lays down a challenge to artists to engage with that possibility through immersing themselves in the here, in the now, and in the we. So what are we seeing on the ground? We're seeing a practice that places engagement at its very core, practice that sets out to have a direct effect on people and places in its immediate locale. Artists are opening buildings, embedding themselves within communities, but these buildings are not just places to make and show what they make, they're places for learning, for sharing, for helping, for a wider society. And artists are trying to support collective action. Action's not authored in the traditional art sense, but this practice that is designed to spread authorship and ultimately question the idea of ownership altogether. But how? We've heard a bit about process so far this morning. I'm more and more convinced that it is the process of working creatively rather than any idea of art practice that is the key to confronting the oh fuck dilemma. People working together, sharing stuff, doing stuff and trusting each other. So the way I interpret it, the neoliberal system has handed us down this on the left as a way of maintaining itself, basically. Risk-averse practice, working in isolation, and not admitting emotions into any kind of interaction. And I'm identifying the very opposite of being the factors of creative practice. And I think working between agencies and working genuinely with using creative processes as in our normal everyday interaction and showing the world that is effective is what we need to be doing. Yes, but how again? Now, with Robbie, who's at the back somewhere, or he's run away, we've been working on a new theory as of last weekend with a hangover, it has to be admitted. When you're seeing art projects through the lens of the oh fuck guy that I talked about at the beginning, those folk are looking for models that can be replicated, prototypes that can be tested, useful things in the sense of that neoliberal methodology. So here is a new road movie theory. Maybe we should be thinking about art projects as road movies. I mean, when Dee was speaking, I was going, oh, maybe it's not road movies, maybe it's trees. You could be thinking of them as trees, because I think it's the same sort of thing. Sure, road movies start out with an objective that gets people on the road, but very quickly that becomes irrelevant. And what you're looking at are the adventures, the connections, the twists and turns of being on the road. The point is to commit commit to life, to commit to place and people and situations. That's what a road movie is all about. So maybe we should be thinking about setting as many road movies, planting as many trees, setting as many hares running as we possibly can, and not measuring them by whether they get to the end or not, but by how much they created on the way. So there's plenty of hares running around us right now. Nick and Minty's Here and Now, Wave Particle in Lauriston, many great people in Govan, North Edinburgh Arts, Open Jar Collective and their Soil City platform in Easterhouse, Govan Hill Baths, Working the Tweed in the Borders, Eco Art Network, Chai Kursava on Uist. Just examples in Scotland of projects that are running without particular objectives. They set out with something to do, but they're growing and adapting as they move forward. So, falling objectives. I was supposed to say something about the stove. Quick rushes from my own current road movie. I mean, four years ago, I made a decision to commit my practice to my home region of southwest Scotland. And the Stove is an artist-led space and a collective. We occupy the 3-storey building that you see with the projection on it in the centre of Dumfries. That's the end of the notes. So what do? We do stuff. We do music. We have a Dumfries Music Conference once a year. We run regular gigs for local bands. We do a word programme that is about creative expression for people from all walks of life. And then we run a Brave New Words monthly open mic night for people to share the work that they're doing. We work a lot with food producers and suppliers, and our cafe is a social space and a social enterprise. We do a visual program that includes the reel-to-reel cinema, where our members suggest movies that that are on issues that they want to talk about, and then we'll host a discussion afterwards. We have a youth group called Blueprint 100. They've just changed their name. They were called the Young Stove. This was an exhibition they did last year. They have an open drop-in once on a Tuesday night, run their own projects, and have a team of 4 of them that curate the organisation. So I'm going to just show a couple. While we have a sort of a regular activity programme that is ticking away through the building and working in partnerships with any number of local groups, we also start projects going that turn into longer term things that are often engaging with the issues that are surrounding us in the town, particularly around what we really focus on is the fact that Dumfries is a market town that's lost its market. It's like a coal town that's lost its pit. So in facing its future, there's a big question mark about what it's for. So that discussion about what could an ex-market town be, is it needed there for being a regional centre? What could that look like, and how can artists be part of helping to shape that? And in last May, we became the Community Development Trust for Dumfries Town Centre. So that's the only example in the UK of artists that are running a community development trust we know of. So this started out as a visual project. Ben had a hand in commissioning it, as did Gemma, so thank you very much. So Submerge was part of ArtCop Scotland, which was a cultural response to the climate change talks that were happening in Paris last December. And we were sort of challenged to make an event, a happening, an exhibition, a project that related that to our local population. So those of you who know anything about Dumfries, one of the things that you might well know is that it floods a lot. So that's what happens on the White Sands fairly regularly, and that's an art project from the Environmental Art Festival. So what we did was we basically made an exhibition about artists and water. and we timed it very accurately to the fact that the worst floods for 20 years happened the day the exhibition started, which meant we got people's attention, which was cool. So this is Kate Foster's work, who's down front. Hi, Kate. And there was artists talking about water. Nick and Minty were there, guddling about in the White Sands. We're collecting water from all the tributaries that were running into the Nith. But the context behind that project was this, which, oh sorry, it's a bit fuzzy. But this is the White Sands that floods at least twice a year, and this is the council's proposal for a kind of earthwork wall that is a flood prevention scheme, which is like massively controversial in Dumfries. There's a 7,000 person petition against this project, because basically we've been living with flooding for over 100 years, and that pub there prides itself on the fact that it can be open within an hour of the last flood, because it's got all its plugs are high and everyone is used to it. So, question: why do we need to do this? Why do we need to spend £20 million? But what had happened was that narrative had just become a for or against narrative. There was no discussion about where options might be taken. So if we didn't do it, where was that going to take us? If we did do it, where was that going to take us? So we set out to get involved in that conversation and convened to put out an invitation to people to be part of that conversation. Groups met and came up with a thing called We Live With Water, which was written as if it was written from 2065 and talking about the last 50 years of Dumfries being a river town which embraced the water, rewilded its, all the areas around the river and let the water in and made a feature of it. So if you wanted to go to Dumfries, the best time to go was when it was flooding. It got quite involved, it turned into a sort of town planning exercise, got a lot of attention. Our local MP took it down to Westminster as an example of how his constituents were dealing with the flooding problem. and it's continued, it's actually shifted the discourse a bit. There is still that polar discourse going on, but there is now another side to that discourse of saying, what the heck, what happens if you actually give the land back to the river? We work with the river in a number of ways. This is the Nith Raid that we do once a year, which is sort of growing into a river festival. It started as a race and involves, this is the Salty Coo, which gets raided through the town. The winning skipper drops the cow into the river and it floats off and dissolves as it goes down. I won't go into why it's a Salty Coo. You can ask me afterwards. And we make a sort of tented village on the green opposite, and there's acoustic music, local food producers, makers working around that. And we do a commission for young artists every year who make a piece of work that is presented at Nith Raid. The final thing I wanted to talk about was something that is very current with us at the moment. We do a lot of consultation work about where the town is going. This is a thing called Square Go that we did as part of the Year of Architecture in March, so this is the river, these are the main roads in the town, some of the key buildings, and we spent 2 days talking to people on the square, basically saying, draw your perfect town. That turned into a series of objectives. One of those key objectives was to actually repopulate the town. And at the same time, we commissioned a film from John Wallace about the history of the High Street and us moving into it. I'll just... Ooh.
With the raising of standards and the advancement of planning legislation in the 20th century, towns became emptied of their inhabitants.
This high street used to be very busy at night. Now, after 5 o'clock at night, if you go out onto the high street here, it's like a desert.
It just shocked me how many shops are empty.
The future's definitely not in retail, is it? I mean, I think that's fairly obvious.
But it feels like it's moving into a period of transformation with sort of the arts industries moving in and starting to bring life back into the town in a different way.
For any local authority to be giving up what ought to be a prime piece of real estate and invest that in a different approach to its town centre. There's a massive shift.
There's a huge opportunity to bring back the diversity, the interesting human activity that used to happen in traditional town centres.
You know, if we can pull this off here, then it's something that could be repeated and could be massive for the way we live in particularly rural areas, I think.
So that film really struck a chord with people, and particularly John Dowson, who you heard on the film, who's the only resident on the High Street. He convened a meeting of people from the housing in the council, architects, planners, the housing associations, community groups, and for a special screening of the film. And at the end of the film, the challenge was laid down, well, let's try and do one thing. Let's try and do one practical thing that could make a difference. And everybody settled on this idea of repopulating the town centre. So this is opposite the Stove. This is the High Street, Dumfries. There's a run of 8 shops there. Only 3 have got any kind of occupation in them at all. All of those top floors are empty, and those go back a long way. So the idea was to this is where we've got to with this at the moment. It's an idea. So this is the run of buildings you saw there. That's where it goes back. So we're looking at this as a quarter and trying to really breathe life into one small chunk of the High Street, with the idea that then spreads. And that is something that we're working. We've got a formal partnership with 2 universities, with the Health Board, who want to have presence on the High Street. The universities want to have a footprint in the High Street for education. And we are forming a community benefit company in the town, which will offer community shares to local people so that we can buy those buildings back and operate it as a social landlord with affordable tenancies for people on the top floors. This is a consultation event that we did 2 weeks ago, taking over one of those buildings that we've been offered for free by the council. Now that's the one that they own, which was attended by 500 people over 2 days. People putting really practical suggestions in and offers of help, and 150 people signed up to this, which is the Dumfries pledge to be involved in the project. And that's me. Thank you very much.